When people told Reddit their past, their stories, explained themselves with Reddit stories, foretold the future. Not really. But foretold the future with Reddit stories. The best place by the monitor was kept for the Reddit teller. Welcome back to your cozy spot by the screenlight. Today, I have some new tales to impart with some interesting outcomes. Today's tales seem to have an interesting combination of entitlement, with this story stemming from one known as Celeste Renee. The title is Entitled Dad is Upset When I Won't Let His Son Play with My Daughter's Heart Monitor. You see, when my oldest daughter was born, she had some significant heart problems. NICU for a while, and then at 10 weeks old, she developed a supraventricular tachycardia, which basically means that her heart would beat excessively for no reason at all. She was in pediatric... She was in pediatric ICU for 2 weeks after nearly dying from organ failure. Thankfully, she's fine now. This particular incident happened about a week after she was released from ICU. She had been sent home with a portable heart monitor. We went to the cardiologist once a week for the batteries on the monitor to be changed and the readings to be checked. On this day, we were sitting in the waiting room at the pediatrics cardiology office. Wait times were insane here, as there were only 2 doctors for the entire region, and it wasn't unusual to wait 30 minutes or longer for an appointment. Entitled Dad and Bratty Kid were the only other ones there. But here we are in the waiting room. My daughter is asleep in her car seat carrier, and I'm lightly half dozing. Something touched my knee. I look down, and Bratty Kid is there. Oh, hi.
Is that a real baby?
Yeah, it is.
Is it a boy?
My daughter, who was dressed in a yellow sleeper with pink strawberries on it, lacy pink socks, and a pink hat. I looked at her and looked back at the boy, and no, it's a girl.
What's that?
He's pointing to the heart monitor. Well, that's to make sure her heart is beating right.
Can I play with it?
No, sorry, it's not a toy.
I'm bored.
I looked across the room, and the dad is flat out asleep. He is legitimately snoring. Why don't you go talk to your dad then? At this moment, I'm called up to the insurance desk to fill out another form. Bratty Kid had gone back to his dad, so I left my baby there as I was only about 4 feet away. I turned to go sit down, and the entitled dad is now awake and walking toward me.
Do you have a toy my son can play with?
No, sorry.
He says you do. Give it to him.
I don't.
He says you do.
Give it to him. I don't.
I need a nap. Just give him the toy so I can go back to sleep.
There's no toy. You should have brought one for him if you wanted to sleep so bad. If looks could kill. He went back to his side of the room, and I sat down. Another 10 minutes pass. My daughter's awake now and hungry. I'm digging through the diaper bag. As a first-time mom with a child in and out of the hospital, I hadn't had the time or energy to develop a system for the bag yet, so it took me a minute. By the time I'd found what I needed, my daughter was screaming, and so was her heart monitor, the cords of which are in Bratty Kid's hand. The loud beeps from the disconnected monitor wake up Entitled Dad. The entitled dad shoots out of his chair.
What the flip is that?
I didn't even get time to answer before a nurse rushes to us. She drops to the floor to check my daughter. Meanwhile, I snatch the heart monitor from Bratty Kid's hand. That is mine. Give it back.
Why are you taking his toys from him?
Go back to sleep. It's all you seem to be good for. He grabs my arm and yanks the monitor from me to give it back to the kid, who promptly drops it. The nurse was kind enough to pick it up.
You need to leave now. This is sensitive medical equipment. If it's damaged, we're billing you for it.
You have no right to talk to me like that. Do you know who I am?
You're the guy who's about to get arrested if you don't leave right now.
The nurse stared at him with a cold stare. On his way out, he screamed profanities at me and about me, the nurse, and the clinic. His wife, who had been in the back with the doctor, was told he was banned from the clinic and was handed a bill for the cost of the monitor. A few weeks later, during another appointment, the nurse told me he'd sued the clinic for emotional trauma. It was dropped when the clinic countersued for the cost of the monitor. Well, as someone who can definitely relate to the debilitating, irritating condition that is being discussed, I hope that your daughter's all right and feeling much better now, especially with all of this that had happened. As for the dad, you know, if there was like a license that could be given / taken away to be a parent, I would just put him in the paper shredder, not even the license. Following along the wilting branches of entitlement, we have a new story coming from Catwoman Lover 34. I really can't tell if that means that you love Catwoman or that you are a woman who loves cats and you're 34. Either way, I'm sorry. The story is titled Entitled Karen. My son SA'd you? Well, you're supposed to let him. How dare you defend yourself? This happened when I was 15. A boy in my neighborhood would often catcall me and try to grab me. He was around my age. I had told him to leave me alone. I complained to his parents, but to no avail. When I told my parents about it, they just told me to ignore him. Well, one day, when I was walking home from school, he caught up with me. As usual, he made some filthy comments about my body, things he would do to me, etc. I walked faster in an attempt to lose him. I just wanted to get home. But he grabbed my arm and lifted my skirt, exposing my underwear. I freaking lost it. I began punching and kicking him with all of my strength and with all the rage that I had been building up inside of me. I didn't stop until someone pulled me off of him. It was his mother. She screamed at me for hurting her
Little boy.
She told me she would be speaking to my parents, and I said, fine, and walked home. I knew it would get ugly that evening, but his blood on my knuckles made me feel a little bit better. That evening, when my parents got home, Karen was already waiting beside our front door. Apparently, she had been messaging my parents all day, telling them about the beating. She berated them again in person. The
Boys will be boys
defense was used. Here's the fun part. My parents actually apologized to her and promised her they would discipline me. When she left, I told them my side of the story, but my dad just repeated what he said earlier, that I should have ignored him. And icing on the cake, he told me if I didn't want to draw the attention of boys, I should lengthen my skirts. Never mind the fact that I had pretty much been assaulted, my mom told me to grow up and be more ladylike instead of getting into fights with boys. My two brothers, who are younger than me, were much more sympathetic. My 13-year-old brother, who said he'd... Oh, I gotta reread that. My two brothers, who are younger than me, were much more sympathetic. My 13-year-old brother said he'd get at his friends to gang up on him if he ever came near me. Thankfully, it never came to that. The coward never harassed me again. I guess getting beaten up by a girl can really kill a misogynist's confidence. You know, I never understood the comment, boys will be boys, and unfortunately nowadays it seems that both sides of the coin are just going down the crapper. You have be more ladylike, boys will be boys, and then you have just overall weirdness where parents will just decide, no, I'm not going to parent my kid. My kid? No, you never did anything wrong. Your kid sucks. And you know what? As a dad, I think if my daughter ever came to me and said, Dad, this happened, I don't think I would be able to be around until she was graduating high school. Making our way down the wilted branches of this entitled tree, it's no longer a twig. Unfortunately, it really is a full, sprouted, dying tree. This next story is from Paperweight Fairy, titled, My Family is Pressuring Me to Give My 23 Female Sister my 28 female wedding venue because she needs it more and is pregnant. Part 1. My fiance and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3. I was doing my PhD program and was juggling planning the wedding. My fiance took much of that work, but it was perfect because our dream venue was booked till after my graduation. So what we did is book our dream venue 3 years in advance. It's a really beautiful venue. The only slot we got was September of this year. My sister got engaged a few months ago to her fiancé. They were planning on having a spring wedding next year. They had no venue lined up, but had a few vendors lined up as well as a set date. Yesterday, our parents invited us and our significant others to a family barbecue, where my sister announced to our extended family that she's expecting. Everyone was so happy for her, and my brother-in-law, who's a great guy, my nan, asked my sister if the wedding was still on the set date or if they were going to wait, because of the baby. She said no, that she hoped to move it to September. We don't have many out-of-town guests, so they could attend to both weddings no problem. Nan was happy and asked my sister if she needed help planning such a short-notice wedding. My sister then turned around and said,
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was really, really hoping we could take your venue. I really cannot stress myself too much with planning a wedding while going to maternity classes, and I think it would be so beautiful and it would really mean a lot to me.
It was silent. But everyone was looking at me, expecting me to say, Of course, everything for my little sister. My brother-in-law looked really uncomfortable and told her that they had talked about this and that it was not okay to put me on the spot. But my sister just said,
Don't be like that. My sister wants to do what's best for me, so it's not a big deal, right?
I just looked at her and said, Well, it kind of is. I don't know. I have my heart really set on this venue. Cue the crying. She stormed off. Nan told me that I was being selfish because she needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself, and my mother said,
You waited 3 years. Would it have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something?
A few comments later, my fiance got really mad, and we left. My sister called me crying and said that it was unfair that I always get what I want, and that I could have done this one thing for her. Dad said it was just a venue, and what matters is the person who you're marrying. He is kind of right. But we've been planning for so long. My fiance is furious with my family and doesn't even want my sister to come. Now, my family is threatening not to come because I'm being selfish, and my sister needs it more than me because having a baby is too stressful. Part 2. My brother-in-law called me and apologized for the inconvenience. He told me he discussed it with my sister, and she told him she would not ask. He's properly mad with her now, and Part 2. My brother-in-law called me and apologized for the inconvenience. He told me he had discussed it with my sister, and she told him she wouldn't ask. He's properly mad with her now and warned me that my sister is blaming me for, quote, potentially ruining her marriage. My father has sent me about 5 texts along the lines of,
I hope you're happy. Your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday.
And so on and so forth. My fiance and I decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and to replace her with my aunt, who is the only family member who took my side. We have not decided whether or not we will invite my family as a whole. Furthermore, my mom took it upon her to tell us she called fiance's parents and told them that it would be best if my sister gets it because she's pregnant and pre-eclampsia runs in the family. My future father-in-law told them to promptly F off and basically rip my mom a new one for expecting something so ridiculous and that they were going to lose me if they kept playing favorites. So now, my mom is now crying too and saying that my father-in-law is an ass. This is just getting so pathetic. It seems straight up out of a bad soap opera. My in-laws are driving to us currently with some supper and wine and basically told me not to worry and that no matter what happens, they will be my safety net. And honestly, I cried out of happiness. Part 3. So it hasn't been that long, but the post blew up. I was expecting only a few answers, but the support was overwhelming. What boggled my mind is that the story flooded over the mainstream media. Part 3. My sister saw the story while browsing her Reddit account, and she lost her mind. She accused me of painting her like a loony and misinterpreting the facts. Side note, my sister got wind of the situation due to various media outlets and went on Reddit. She said that I was being unfair, that she's family, and that she asked it nicely because she loves me. She also underlines the fact that the opinion of internet strangers doesn't count, because family is more important, and I should focus on making my family happy. The only text I sent back was this. I'm sorry that you perceived it that way. I did not in any matter distort what happened. As you might notice, I didn't describe your tone nor exaggerated anything. Perhaps you have that night different in your mind than I do, but I digress. I am sick and tired to bending to your will. My whole life, I have been your servant and your doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you because you would throw a tantrum because you didn't get a present? Or when you cried so that I would fill out a job application for you? But the thing that hurt me the most till now is when you ruined my graduation. I'm done. I admit that I also spoiled you. But I'm not going to do that anymore. If you want to marry so bad, before your baby is born, then you could look at Hotel X or Hotel Y that offers last-minute weddings. I have spent too much time planning my wedding to gift it to you. And if you want to ruin our relationship over this, go ahead. I will sleep sound and safe knowing that it's not my fault. The only thing she sent me was,
Wow. You must love me so very much.
and she blocked me. She unblocked me this morning, only to send me this. A conversation between her and her wedding planner.
Hello, dear. I got the message from your mother and will proceed with the rebooking of the venue on the spot. However, this will have extra costs as we have to change the names on the contract. Please come to my office tomorrow so we can sign the new contract.
That's great. I'll be there at 9.
My parents haven't actually written me since the thing with my father-in-law. My older brother, yes, I have an older brother, but he lives in another city and wasn't at the barbecue. That's why I didn't mention him. Plus, he initially couldn't come to the wedding because of work and changed his plans after hearing about the story. Contacted me and wanted to know what happened because he got a weird story from mom and dad. Mom had told him that I had offered previously to the barbecue to give up the venue to my sister and that I humiliated her. I told him what really happened and he had no problem believing me. We talked a lot about our parents' behavior and he confessed that him moving was partly due to our parents being, and I quote, shitheads. He told me that mom had gotten wind from the post and was mad at me for betraying my family. I haven't written my parents what so many of you have advised because I have to come to terms with the fact that they love my sister more than me, if they love me at all. The wedding. We sat together and put passwords with majority of our vendors and also the venue directly. We didn't talk to our planner yet, which is why the text of my sister worries me so much. Also, we canceled the catering that my parents paid for. So, short term, we won't be able to get a full catering like we wanted to. But all of our friends and my fiance's family will help us prepare a buffet, and everyone's going to chip in. That will be our bachelor party. As we will have spent more on our food now, we canceled our bachelor parties, and we'll have a family and friends for a cooking session. Part 4. We called my planner, and she was actually really horrified. She told me she never had as much talked to my mother since the day we went to book the venue. She assured me that even if they were to call and say that I wanted it, I had to be present to make any changes. So we informed everyone that will work for us on our wedding, and they offered to hire security for that day at a reduced price.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to see parents pick favorites. It always kind of makes me laugh because I have two older sisters, actually. And every time I hear someone telling me about their relationship with their sibling or with their parents, it always kind of makes me feel really sad because I used to think that my family was like the normal, but it seems that the normal is a backstabbing brother, a conniving sister, an entitled mom or dad. And I didn't have that. I'm really close with my sisters. I love my parents. We all love each other. Like, yeah, we get into a fight. We're not perfect, but it really breaks my heart to see this level of betrayal and pettiness and just conniving rat-like behavior. I think I now have a hankering for cheese because of how dirty these rats make me feel. Thank you for joining me by the monitor. And to everyone listening and enjoying this content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to hear more of these stories stemming from tragic to comedic to downright horrific. And as always, see you in the next chapter.